Poliwrath might just be one of the best solo running Pokemon in Generation 1, just based on its starting moveset. This Pokemon starts the game with Hypnosis and Body Slam and has Water Gun for coverage, leading a lot of people to question, would this Pokemon be better than even Mewtwo or Mew if only it had the same stats as them? Well, I decided to test this out. We've already done a max stats Mewtwo and a max stats Mew, where we gave them perfect stats just to see how incredibly overpowered they would become in a solo challenge, and the results were pretty darn good. But each of those Pokemon did have their downfalls. Mewtwo, being in the slow level up group, had the issue of not gaining levels quickly enough to consistently one-shot opponents, whereas Mew struggled in the early game because it didn't have an answer for Brock. Poliwrath seemingly answers both of those questions. Water Gun is basically guaranteed to one-shot both of Brock's Pokemon, and Body Slam should basically carry us until we get to Celadon City, get a bunch of TMs, and from there, with our amazing TM coverage, we should absolutely crush the entire game. At least that's the theory. The question is, will we run into a wall due to our fighting typing? There are tons of Pokemon in Pokemon Yellow that love to use Psychic type moves, and we don't have any super effective moves to take those Pokemon down, so we're really going to be hoping that Body Slam is enough. With that being said, we do get the ability to learn Earthquake and Psychic ourselves, as well as really strong moves like Ice Beam, Blizzard, and of course our same type move in Surf, so there are plenty of options I think to allow Poliwrath to maybe get a better time on these settings than both Mewtwo and Mew. Will it work out? Not sure, but let's get into it and find out. So Professor Oak will meet us outside of Pallet Town, where we find the legendary Hypnotoad. He catches it in a single Pokeball, of course, and now he's going to take us back to the lab because he knows this needs more research. Granted, when his grandson pushes us out of the way, he's just going to give us the overpowered Pokemon so that we can test it in battle. So against rival number 1, I think there's no strategy other than to move Body Slam into the top slot and just use it to one-shot his Pokemon. Easy victory there, and it's time to move on in the game. Now, the same as I've done with the rest of these runs where I've been running on max stats, we're going to do the first run with animations on, and then we'll do a second run with animations turned off, just taking anything that I learned from the first run in order to try to get that second run as fast as I possibly can. Now, there are some things that I'm not going to do because I didn't do them in the previous runs, and it wouldn't be apples to apples, of course. Things like a Pokédoll glitch I will not do because that wouldn't be fair, but we just want to see how this Pokemon actually compares up to Mewtwo and Mew when it has perfect stats. Usually you would actually prefer to have Poliwhirl in a full game solo run than Poliwrath, because in spite of the fact that Poliwrath is the fully evolved form, Poliwhirl learns Amnesia via level up, and that's usually super important, plus it's faster and doesn't have the weakness to Psychic types, so usually Poliwhirl is actually the better Pokemon. But here as we come into this bug catcher, I think we're going to see that Poliwrath is pretty OP, given that it can simply use Body Slam. It was a 2-hit KO there, it would be a 1-hitter with a crit, but still, that's really not too bad for this early game. So now it's just time to see if we can one-shot Brock, something that neither Mewtwo nor Mew could do. So first up against the Geodude, I'm just going to use Water Gun. It is a 1-hit KO, of course. And against Onix, 4 times super effective stab Water Gun is enough to get the 1-hitter in 2 minutes 24 seconds to beat Brock, including all my rambling and setup. Really not too bad. And just like that, of course, we have no resets, no optional battles, no TMs at this point, and I don't think we're going to really have to add TMs for a while. We should be set for Misty already. I don't think we're ever even really going to rely on Hypnosis in this. I think we're just going to use all-out attacking moves in order to get through the game. But for now, let's move on to the Misty section with our Hypnotoad. Now, of course, recently I've been doing runs with Max DV's Pokemon, basically showing that we didn't even need all of these rando trainers in the overworld. You can beat the game with just 13 battles with something like a Mewtwo or something like a Victory Bell. Victory Bell's another Pokemon that I'd like to try on these settings. That being said, though, I think that this is going to be a pretty easy run all said, because we don't have to worry about routing as much here, we can simply fight everything. I am going to fight this bug catcher rather than the last just because I think this is faster. We don't have to backtrack to reset trainer positions. So I'm just going to easily knock these Pokemon out. And there we go. We can now move on to Mount Moon. Now, as far as items in Mount Moon, I will get the rare candy in here just because we might need rare candies later on, but I'm honestly not sure. It might be a waste of time to even pick that up, but we'll just have it just in case, at least for this first run. If it turns out completely unnecessary, in the second run, we will simply ignore rare candies and just run through the game as quick as possible. So here we can make it to the Super Nerd at the end of Mount Moon, where we're simply going to go for the body slams. We are running a little low on PP here, so that is a bit of a consideration. Still, water guns should be doing enough damage at this point that we can get through. We'll get Lord Dome because it is the superior fossil, obviously. Comment down below if you disagree. And now it's time for Jesse and James. Here we're simply going to spam water gun. This is going to one-shot on the Ekans, one-shot on the Meowth, and Coughing also gets one-shot. Stab water gun is actually enough to get through all of these fights without any real difficulty at this point in the game. Still, I will go ahead and heal up just very quickly here in Cerulean City. I will also get the rare candy here. It's minor time loss perhaps, but I still, again, don't know if I'll need them or not. And then let's take on rival number 2. So here against the rival, I think Body Slam is perfect for Spearow. We'll go with the water gun on the Sandshrew, and then back to the Body Slam for the remaining 2 Pokemon just to guarantee that we one-shot them and we easily get through that fight and we can move on across the Nugget Bridge. I'm taking this route because Body Slam probably won't one-shot Misty's Pokemon at this point, so it's probably more efficient to go up north and get a few extra levels. Now we should pay attention to Pokemon that have lower special and try to use Water Gun so that we can save our Body Slams for the very end when we get to the Oddish Lass. Let's just see how that actually works though. We can see here at level 20 we already have stats like a lot of Pokemon at the end of the game, so even a move like Water Gun does massive damage to these opponents. So as we come to the final Oddish Lass, we have one-shot everything up to this point. We're just saving Body Slam right here for the Oddish. We can go Water Gun on the Pidgey and then just another Body Slam on the second Oddish. Easy victory. As we get through, we'll grab an Ether and make our way to Billy Boy's house. Of course, he's going to be completely shocked at the Pokemon that we have. He knows he needs to undo his experiments because he needs to experiment with perfect stats. But for now, he's going to give us the SS ticket and we'll just run away from him because we don't want him to take our Hypnotoad. No. So now let's just go ahead and fight the innocent bystander and then I'll go ahead and take on Misty. So against Misty, the only strategy is Body Slam on the Staryu. It's a one-hit KO, and Starmie comes out. We also one-shot that Pokemon. 7 minutes and 54 seconds to get through the first 2 gyms. It says 1 optional battle. That's because I fought the bug catcher with 4 Pokemon on Route 3. He's considered optional to me because you get less experience by fighting the last, but still, it's effectively minimum battles at this point, and we're kind of cruising in the game. So now let's just make our way down to Surgy Boy. Usually he could be trouble for a Pokemon like this with Thunderbolt, but I don't think he's going to be a massive problem in this one, just because we're going to outspeed anyway, and Body Slam should just one-shot, but let's find out. So here on the SSN, I'm not going to waste time fighting any trainers. I'm just going to go straight to rival number 3. I don't think we need that rare candy, or obviously we don't need the Body Slam TM, so we can just come straight here, Body Slam his Spearow. We can Body Slam on the Rattata. Time for a Water Gun here on Sandshrew, and then one more Body Slam for good measure on Eevee. As we get to level 26, that's a super easy victory, and we can come up and give the captains back a rubby rub and get access to Cut. So I'm also going to take this opportunity to just learn Bubble Beam. Since it is the same type move, we'll learn it over Double Slap. We never want to use Double Slap in this run, and that way we will have access to another damage dealing move so that we have fewer trips back to the Pokemon Center. So the biggest thing that could slow us down here, of course, is the trash can puzzle. So we're just going to have to solve this one. I do not auto-solve trash can puzzles in my runs. I want that authentic experience, you know? And after accidentally running into a trainer inside of Lieutenant Surge's gym, I actually had to replay the game up to this point. So we have slightly better splits on Brock and Misty. We came out with 208 against Brock and 714 against Misty, with me not giving any explanations. So you can imagine that we lost about 40 seconds in that intro just from me kind of giving explanation as I'm playing. everything, but now we're ready to make our way back down to Vermilion City and to Lieutenant Surge. So with that, we make it to Lieutenant Surge at about 10 minutes and 17 seconds. Let's see if we can manage to just one-shot his Pokemon. So here we're just going to go Body Slam on the Raichu, and sure enough, we do one-shot with a crit, so 1029 to get through 3 gyms. Really not looking too bad. We've added one optional battle as mentioned before. We've added a TM and Bubble Beam, but that's it. We're completely cruising at this point. I'm a little worried about Erika, but of course we will get Ice Beam and Psychic before we fight her, so that should be fine. Koga again with Psychic shouldn't be a big issue either. So really after that, Sabrina might be difficult if she chooses the right moves. We'll just have to see, but for now, let's just keep on cruising with our Hypnotoad. So now we can make our way through to Celadon City, of course. We're just going to easily destroy the Wrapping Last since we have Body Slam for all of our Pokemon, and I don't foresee any issues in this entire section. So as we make it to the Rock Tunnel Hiker, of course, we have no issues here. We're just going to spam Bubble Beam, and these are going to be one-hit KOs, of course. This is effectively the midpoint in a minimum battles run, which is why I always show that battle, but really he's just no challenge for any of these super powerful Pokemon. Now here in Celadon, we'll get access to the Ice Beam TM. I think this will be super useful right away, so I'm simply going to learn it. And let's just go ahead and learn this over Hypnosis since we're never really going to go sleep strats here. This is also where I'll get access to the Psychic TM since I think it's going to be super useful in this one. And that way we have another coverage move against Erika as well as a good move for all of this next section, considering that we've got rockets and channelers and all that. So Psychic will just be learned over Water Gun at this point, and now it's time to make our way to Erika. Now, usually Erika's kind of scary for Poliwrath, but here with Ice Beam and perfect stats, we should just one-shot all of her Pokemon very, very easily. And sure enough, we easily get through and get to level 31. 16 minutes 33 seconds to get through the 4th gym, and we are making very good progress. Now 3 TMs, but really nothing to sneeze at as we move on. We now have to take on both the Rocket Hideout and the Pokemon Tower. Typically, if you were truly speedrunning, you would be taking advantage of the Pokédoll glitch here, but I do not Pokédoll glitch in these runs. The only cases where I will Pokédoll glitch are if I'm doing a super minimum battles run. And after making very quick work of the Rockets here in the Rocket Hideout, we're ready to make our way straight to Jesse and James and Giovanni and just see how easily we completely crush them. Starting with Jesse and James right here, I think we just spam Bubble Beam the entire way. I don't even think we need to use Psychic here, and this should just one-shot all of their Pokemon. Sure enough, we get through them nice and easy, and it's time for Giovanni. He never knew what to expect here. He comes out with an Onix. He thinks he's Brock or Bruno or something. Clearly, he's playing on about that level as we completely destroy all of his Pokemon. So now it's time for rival number 4 in Lavender, where we should have an easy time with this one. Ice Beam for the Fearow is an easy one-hitter. Out comes the Magnemite. Here we can just go Body Slam. That's an easy enough KO. Same for the Shelder. Here Sandshrew gets Bubble Beamed. And finally for the Eevee, let's just stick with the Bubble Beam and get the easy one-hit KO. We completely destroy them, and it's time to make our way up the tower into Jesse and James. And of course, we get a nice free heal here in the Pokemon Tower, so as we make our way to Ghosty Mama, we're just going to easily destroy her, and we've got plenty of PP in all of our moves. So Jesse and James time. Here I think Psychic's going to come into play, but let's delete off with just a Bubble Beam on the Meowth to easily one-shot it. Now Psychic on Arbok is a one-hit KO, and Psychic on Weezing also gets the one-hitter, so we easily get through that fight. It's time to go save Mr. Fuji. So the old man's going to give us a flute, and we're just going to get out of here as quick as possible. Let's make our way to Saffron and to rival number 5. I'm choosing this route because this will also give us access to Earthquake, which is one of our best moves in this entire run, and with that I think our moveset is nearly finished. Still, we do have to get through the rival, so let's just see how he goes. Usually one of the toughest trainers in the game. However, here against his Sandslash, I'm just going to use Bubble Beam to one-shot it. Out comes the Cloyster. This is the Pokemon we don't have anything great for. I'm going Psychic since it's neutrally effective. He does confuse us as he hangs on with just a sliver of health. We're going to go Body Slam on Magneton though. Body Slam on the Kadabra, if we can manage to hit, is a one-hit KO. And finally, Flareon can get Bubble Beamed. Easy, easy victory. So it might be better to actually route down to Koga just because we didn't one-shot that Cloyster there. But honestly, outside of that, this was a pretty easy fight. Still, it was a minor time loss just due to that single Pokemon. So with that, we can now make our way to Giovanni, where we have a good advantage on all of his Pokemon. We can just go Psychic on the Nidorino, and then I think we're just Bubble Beaming the rest of the way. Easy one-shot on Persian. Of course, Rhyhorn doesn't stand a chance, and same for Nidoqueen. We one-shot all three and easily get through this entire section. So I'm just going to run upstairs, get Earthquake and the Rare Candy, and then let's get out of Saffron and make our way to Koga. Now, Earthquake, I think, is going to be super useful for the rest of this run, so I'm actually going to forget Body Slam in order to learn it, just because it should be super effective against several of the gym leaders coming up. And even against Sabrina, it's stronger than Body Slam anyway, so that should be a good move to use for the rest of the run. We can start testing out Earthquake right here in the gym against Koga. Of course, first we've got to take on these jugglers, where Earthquake should be perfectly fine against these psychic types. And with these Pokemon going down nice and easy, it's time to make our way to Koga himself. So since we are up against Koga in Pokemon Yellow, he's effectively a poison psychic trainer, and we're just going to spam psychic the entire way to get through this. We're one-shotting all of the Venonats as we get to the final Venomoth. Psychic is a one-hit KO, so we get the victory. 24 minutes, 17 seconds to get through that gym, and 4 TMs, only one optional battle. That's not really an optional battle up to this point. We're doing perfectly fine. Now I'm just going to run back to Sabrina, I think, because I think Earthquake is going to be enough to just one-shot all of her Pokemon, but let's find out. So here I'm just going to go ahead and learn Surf over Bubble Beam since it's going to be a stronger move. We can make our way out of the Safari Zone, and that should really be all the moveset changes that we need for this entire run. So now Sabrina time. So now against Sabrina, of course, we're not going to give her a chance to flash us. We're just going to go straight for the Earthquake on Abra, and we're going to do the same to Kadabra. Easy one-hit KO victory. And Alakazam, let's see if we get the sweep. We do. So just like that, 26 minutes, 41 seconds to beat the Sabrina fight. And with 6 gym badges down, we are making very, very, very good progress. So now it's just on to Blaine, and then we can take on Giovanni and get to the league. Now here I will grab Blizzard just in case, but otherwise I really don't think we need any items from here. And of course, if we had Tombstoner, we would get a perfect time, but let's try to take on Blaine as we are. So of course against Blaine, the only play is Earthquake the entire way. I mean, granted, I guess Surf is actually technically stronger, isn't it? But still, we should easily get through all of these Pokemon. In fact, we just one-shot all 3 of them. It doesn't really matter. 29 minutes to get through that gym, and we're ready to move on. So we've pretty much defeated all of the gym leaders. I don't expect Giovanni to be any challenge. I think we're basically just spamming Surf the entire way there. But still, this shouldn't be too bad in this first run. We're looking at times around 37 minutes in my previous runs with Mew and Mewtwo, and I think we're going to be able to match that or possibly beat that with this Pokemon. And again, remember that those are with animations on, those are with me giving live commentary, so these aren't perfectly optimized, and not knowing the route as I go through, I'm just kind of winging it. Still, we're getting very decent times with these Pokemon, and I'm sure if you were actually fully optimizing these and, you know, doing all of the teleports, etc. that you should do, you'd definitely be getting sub 30 with all of these Pokemon. So here against Giovanni with our Hypnotoad, we're just going to Surf on the Dugtrio. I think we just hold Auto-A on Surf the entire way. I think that's the way to go. Here we can just destroy Nidoqueen. Nidoking should also be a one-hit KO. And finally out comes the Rhydon, where we completely destroy it with Surf and get through. In 30 minutes 30 seconds, we have defeated Giovanni. So with that, it's time to make our way to the league and the champion. We've only got Rival 6 standing in front of us, and he's going to be a joke. So this really shouldn't be too bad. And of course, we've got so much attacking PP here that we don't even have to worry about going back to the Pokemon Center or anything like that. We can simply come straight to these fights and just keep destroying these Pokemon. I still think Psychic is the best play against Cloyster, but it is a two-hitter there. Earthquake is obviously the play for Magneton and for Kadabra, and then we can just give a Surf to easily get through the Flareon. So with that, we easily get through on the first attempt. We can now move on. So the only real questions are whether we should use rare candies to try to get the one-hitters on the Cloysters here, because that's the only Pokemon that's posed any sort of real wall to us. Of course, I expect Exeggutor to pose a little bit of a wall in the final battle against the champion, but outside of that, I honestly don't think there are going to be that many Pokemon that are that hard. Really, it might just be Lorelei, who's a little bit tough given the fact that we're stuck using Psychic as our best move against her bulky water types. And this is the one disadvantage that I can think of with Poliwrath, is just that it doesn't have access to electric type moves or any sort of grass type moves that would help against those bulky water types. And while we could go submission, that's really an all or nothing strategy given that it misses 20% of the time and has recoil. I just don't think that that would be the best play. Though I do think if you were trying to get the perfect time with this Pokemon and you were doing like 50 runs with it, then probably adding submission to get through bulky water types would be the way to go, including here against Lorelei. Instead, what I'm going to do here though is just add on a bunch of rare candies before this fight and just see if that manages to get me through. So there's definitely a little bit of a time loss here from using these rare candies, but I think that it's going to help us get better ranges. So let's just try it. Lorelei attempt number 1. So here against Dugong, of course, it has lower defense than special. That's why we're going Earthquake. It's still a 2-hit KO on this Pokemon though. Out next is Cloyster. That's where we will go Psychic. Against Slowbro, the only play is to go Earthquake. It's the only move that we've got that's neutrally effective here. So that's a 2-hit KO again. Against Jinx, we can actually go Surf and get the easy one-hitter. Finally, against Lapras, I think the best play is to go for the Earthquake. It's a 2-hitter, but still we do manage to get through nice and easy. But clearly rare candies were not enough to just one-shot there, so I guess that's where submission would have to come in. But with that, it's time to take on Bruno, and this one should be super easy. We just go Surf on the first Pokemon. We can go Psychic on the Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee after that. And then I think we just go back to Surf on the Onix. We could probably stick with Psychic and it would be enough, but I want to save the PP there, and we can just use Psychic to take out Machamp. So with that, we are ready to move on to Agatha. Let's see how she goes. So Agatha is why we want Earthquake in this run. Earthquake should one-shot the first Gengar. Against the Golbat, we don't actually have anything that great. I guess Psychic is the play. And then we're going to go back to Earthquake for the remaining 3 Pokemon. And this should be an easy one-hit KO fest. In any run where you have Earthquake, it's basically the answer to Agatha. So with that, we've made it to Lance. I'm just going to stick with Ice Beam for this one. Let's see how it goes. So first up, we've got the Gyarados, and this Pokemon we've got nothing great, so Psychic is probably as good as anything here. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. From here, we can go into the Ice Beam on Dragonair 1, Ice Beam on Dragonair 2. Against Aerodactyl, technically Surf is the play, and then we'll go back to the Ice Beam on the Dragonite. 4 times super effective means it's a guaranteed 1-hit KO, and we're ready to get to the champion at about 36 minutes. So now let's just see if we can beat the champion on the first attempt. So here against the champion, of course, I'm just going to Surf on the Sand Slash. That will be an easy victory. Alakazam can get an Earthquake. And now it's time for the Exeggutor, the one that we know is tough. Ice Beam, critical hit, does one-shot though. Earthquake against the Magneton will guarantee the one-hitter there. Back to Psychic for the Cloyster, gets a critical hit one-shot, and then Surf on the final Flareon. And with that, we managed to beat the champion in 36 minutes and 43 seconds. So really not bad for that full run. I mean, 5 TMs, 1 optional battle, but really no issues to get through that entire run. There were just a couple spots where we had 2 hitters. So the improvements that I think we should make between this run and the next run are that number 1, we should definitely add submission just for some really key fights. We're talking specifically for Cloysters and against Lorelei. And then for the rest of the run, I think our strategy was basically spot on. So we'll just have to see if it actually works out or not. But what we can say definitively is that Poliwrath was faster on these settings than both Mew and Mewtwo. So basically this just comes down now to how much we can optimize with the animations turned off and how much faster can we actually beat the game. So now for the second run, we're going to run Poliwrath again, but he's not going to get his full name Hypnotoad. He's only going to be named A, and we're going to go as fast as we possibly can with animations turned off. The only real strategy difference I think I'm going to make is when I get submission about in the mid game, but until then, let's just check in on the major battles and the times we get against each gym leader. So starting with Brock, of course, it's just a matter of using 2 water guns here to easily knock out his Pokemon, and we managed to beat Brock in 2 minutes and 4 seconds, so a very slight improvement on the first run, but basically right on par. In this section of the game, everything really just comes down to how much you bump into walls. There's not really anything else that will stack up enough at this point in terms of animations to really affect the final times. Still all said, about a 4-second improvement, so we can move on in the game. Back to Misty, of course, the strategy is still just to use Body Slam twice here and easily knock out both of her Pokemon, leaving us with a time of 6 minutes 57 seconds to get through Misty, meaning we beat her about 17 seconds faster than in the previous run. Back to Lieutenant Surge, of course, we just go for Body Slam and easily one-shot his Pokemon, leaving us with a time of 9 minutes 17 seconds to get through that fight. So now over 1 minute faster than the previous run. We had a couple of times where we got the wrong locks on the trash can puzzle, so realistically you could have easily added several seconds at least to the time just due to the trash can puzzle. So if you're the type that auto solves here, you would probably get an even better time through this section of the game. Now against Erika, of course, it's just 3 ice beams in order to knock out her Pokemon, and this is a super easy fight, so we get through in 14 minutes and 51 seconds. Now this includes the time for me to go and catch a flying Pokemon, also to get Psychic and Ice Beam, as well as to buy that TM in order to have submission later on. So we actually took a lot of time to do a lot of errands here, and we still came out with a significantly better time. We're now running about a minute 40 seconds faster than the previous run. That of course means that we can simply get to Giovanni, who's incredibly easy in the Rocket Hideout, since we aren't using the Pokédog skip here, and we can make our way to rival number 4. Now this is the last rival that we'll fight before we learn submission, because there's just no reason to have that move yet. Still, we can easily just get through this entire team with a mixture of Bubble Beam and Ice Beam and Psychic, etc. Now I'm going to slightly change my routing here. I'm actually going to go down to Koga first, just because I think this will help with our ranges against the rival, since we should have a pretty easy time in Koga's gym. So against Koga, of course, it's just a matter of spamming Psychic against all of his Venonats and Venomoth. They should all be one-hit KOs here unless we get an unlucky range. We do get an unlucky range on the Venomoth, but we still knock him out in 19 minutes and 41 seconds. That is about 5 minutes faster than the previous run, but keep in mind we haven't fought rival number 5 yet, whereas last time we routed to rival 5 first and then went to Koga and then went back to Sabrina. I think this is just a more efficient routing to go straight to Koga and then route back to Saffron all in one go. So here it's time to take on rival number 5, and here I'm going to actually replace a move. I'm going to forget Bubble Beam to learn submission. Let's see how this goes. So here against the Sandslash, we can simply go for Ice Beam and get an easy one-hit KO. Out comes Cloyster. Submission misses the first time, but it gets the one-shot the second time. Magneton, we can go Body Slam. We're going to stick with Body Slam for Kadabra as well, and I think Body Slam's good enough for Flareon, but it's actually a 2-hit KO, so we theoretically lost a couple turns there just due to not having moves that would one-shot his Pokemon. Pokemon. Still, that brings us to Sabrina faster than before, and we can just spam Earthquake the entire way to one-shot all of her Pokemon, and this move will be good against Blaine as well, so I think this is the way to go. 24 minutes and 4 seconds to get through Sabrina means we're now rocking about 2 minutes 37 seconds faster than the previous run, in spite of the fact that we got worse ranges on a couple of the Pokemon there against rival number 5. At this point, it's mostly the shorter name and the fact that we don't have animations on that I think is really making a difference, especially when you think of a move like Surf and how long that animation is. But still, we're at least getting a better time than before, and we're definitely on pace to get a better time than Mewtwo or Mew at this point. That brings us back to Blaine, against whom, of course, Earthquake is the best strategy. We can simply one-shot all of his Pokemon with this move and easily get the 7th badge, except he just barely survives with the Arcanine. So it ends up being 26 minutes, 16 seconds to get through that. Yet again, without Surf on the moveset, we actually lost a little bit of time here. The reason I haven't put Surf on the moveset is because I think that I need Psychic and Earthquake to deal with Agatha later on. I'm going to need Submission to be able to deal with Lorelei, and then Ice Beam. Just when am I going to get rid of Ice Beam? I really want to keep that move for Lance. So at this point, there's no real spot for Surf as far as I can tell. Basically, until we get through Agatha, at least, I just don't see a situation where I want to learn that move. If it ends up costing me, we'll just have to see, I guess. But at this point, I think this is the best moveset that I can run in order to have as much coverage as possible against the most number of Pokemon. So we are nearly 3 minutes faster than the previous run at this point, but still, we've got to keep this going and hopefully not get too many of those situations where the ranges don't match up in order to beat our previous time. So now Giovanni, of course, we're going to go Ice Beam on the Dugtrio and get the easy one-hitter. I'm going to go for Submission on Persian and get the KO there. We can now go Psychic or Ice Beam on the Nidos. Either I think is fine. We one-shot both. And then on Rhydon and Ice Beam will get the one-hit KO, meaning we beat him in 27 minutes and 23 seconds. So yet again, still rocking about 3 minutes faster than the previous run up to this point. And it's time to make our way to Rival 6 and then the League. So now for Rival 6, of course, we're going to go Ice Beam on the Sandslash and on the Execute. And then it's back to Submission for Cloyster, which does get the one-hit KO. And now I think Earthquake one-shots everything. The Magneton goes down, the Kadabra goes down, and of course the Flareon goes down. So we are one-shotting at this point now against all of these opponents. So we really just have to hope that we can keep the pace up. And I'm not sure if I'm going to change my moveset against the League or not. We'll just have to see. Now, I certainly think sub 30 is possible with this Pokemon, especially if you Pokédoll glitch and you use some other things like digging out from Blaine's gym, resetting in order to avoid using the little spinny tiles inside of Giovanni's gym, etc. You could definitely get this run to be a lot faster than this. I'm doing this route specifically because it's the same route that I did with Mew and Mewtwo, so I want to make sure that I'm comparing apples to apples. But if you guys would like to see me try this again with things like the Pokédoll skip, let me know, because we can always come back and try that in a future video. It's also worth remembering though that I am a low vision content creator, which is why I take a lot more time going through some of these spots. It's not just that I'm playing sped up, but also that I actually can't see well enough to avoid hitting walls all the time. So, you know, keep that in mind, that if you are not dealing with the same handicap as me, you also probably get a much faster time just from not hitting walls as much. But with that, let's get into the league and just see if we can manage to win. I am going to repeat the strategy of dropping the 10 rare candies here as we go into the Lorelei fight, just to make sure that we get the best possible ranges with that submission as we go in. So starting off with Dugong, of course, I'm going submission. We miss, but the second submission does get the one-hit KO. We one-shot against the Cloyster. We still don't have anything great against Slowbro, so it's going to be a two-hitter. We still managed to knock it out. I reckon we just stick with Earthquake on the Jinx, and then back to submission for Lapras is a one-hit KO. So we get through that nice and quick, and it's on to Bruno. So against Bruno, I think we can just spam Psychic the entire way. I mentioned this last time. It's going to be super effective against all the fighting types, but Onix also has such low special, it simply goes down, and we get through with just a bunch of one-hit KOs without even needing to change moves. On to Agatha. And here, once again, Agatha is all about Earthquake and Psychic. We're just going to use Psychic on the Golbat and otherwise spam Earthquake the entire way, and this should get a bunch of one-hit KOs. And with Agatha going down, it is now time for Lance. Let's see if we can get the one-shots on him. So first off, against Gyarados, we don't really have anything better than just to use a couple of Ice Beams to knock that one out. But from there, it should be a one-hit KO fest with Ice Beam. Even against the Aerodactyl, it doesn't stand any shot there, and we destroy Dragonite. So we are going into the champion at about 32 minutes. I'm not going to change my moveset, let's just see how it goes. So here, first off, against Sandslash, I just go Ice Beam to get an easy one-hit KO. Alakazam can get an Earthquake, and then it's time to go back to Ice Beam for Exeggutor. This time we still get the one-hit KO there. Now we'll go back to Earthquake for Magneton. It is to Submission for Cloyster that gets the one-hitter. Finally, Earthquake on the Flareon, and we easily knock it out, allowing us to become the champion in 32 minutes and 37 seconds. So like I said, this is probably a sub 30-minute run if you use things like the Pokédoll skip to just skip that whole rocket section. If you do things like saving and resetting in order to get the trash can puzzle, if you do things like saving and resetting in order to reset the trainer positions in Giovanni's gym so that you don't have to do the little spinny things in order to get to the gym leader, you're probably saving significant amounts of time just from that. Now, with that being said, I also picked up a few items that I probably don't need. Things like the Max Ether just as you come outside of Rock Tunnel. We never used it, so it's probably completely unnecessary. So I think knocking that 237 off of there and getting this sub 30 would not be too difficult to do, even for somebody like me who runs into walls all the time. And ultimately at 32 minutes, 37 seconds, we cut over 4 minutes off of this run, about 4 minutes and 6 seconds in total, just by turning off animations, by adding on submission, and of course, by giving ourselves a one character name. So I'd love to hear if you guys think that you can get a better time than this. It's always fun to see. If you try the run yourself, pop a comment down below with what you end up with. But we can clearly see, even for somebody like me who's not a great speedrunner by any means, that at the end of the day, Poliwrath is significantly better than both Mewtwo and Mew in this sort of setting, coming in nearly 2 minutes faster than either of those Pokemon. And it's really a testament to how important movesets are in these sorts of challenges. It's much better to have moves that easily get you through Brock and Misty at the start of the game, and then you just need a Pokemon with good TM compatibility. If you can get that, plus the medium slow growth rate, it's pretty smooth sailing to get through the entire run. There are also probably optimizations between using vitamins, which I did not do, and using probably fewer rare candies. I don't think all the 10 rare candies that I used are actually necessary to get all the one-hit KOs at the end of the game, so it's probably possible to use those at better spots in order to get better times as well. And with that, there's nothing to do but register in the Hall of Fame. A rival can complain all day about how he deserved to be the champion, he just didn't have an overpowered Hypnotoad. So just like that, Poliwrath is arguably the best solo running Pokemon in Gen 1, though I think there are a couple other Pokemon that could challenge it for that mantle. Of course, we've got to think about Pokemon like Victory Bell. We've got to think about some Pokemon like Nidoqueen that could theoretically be better type coverage than even a Poliwrath. Plus the fact that it starts with Body Slam just the same could mean that Pokemon's pretty good. I also think that even something like Dugong could be pretty good in this sort of setting. Starts with Aurora Beam and Headbutt, so it would have good coverage at the start of the game. That might be enough to get a better time, but for now, Poliwrath is king. He is the best solo running Pokemon that we've tested on these settings so far. So now there's only one last test to do. We have to complete Professor Oak's research by going and fighting his teams, and I think we're gonna make a clean sweep, but let's just see how it goes. And let's just start with the Venusaur team. Let's go hardest first. So here against Tauros, of course, submission will just get the one-hit KO. Against Exeggutor, it's an Ice Beam all the way. We do not get the one-hitter here though, so we get put to sleep. He's wasting quite a bit of time, but we do get 2 hits on that one. Earthquake will be enough for the Arcanine. Out comes the Venusaur. We just go Ice Beam and get the one-hitter. Finally, Gyarados. There's nothing better than Ice Beam. It's still going to be a 2-hit KO here, so we'll just use a Psychic to finish it off. Now on to the second team. We're going to fight the Blastoise team here, where submission destroys Tauros, Exeggutor, I accidentally used Earthquake, but we'll just get it with an Ice Beam the next turn. Earthquake now on the Arcanine will completely destroy it. Blastoise, I honestly don't know what to do, but Submission is enough to get the one-shot. Finally, we get to the final Gyarados, where yet again we'll just use Ice Beam. We get a critical hit, so that is enough to one-hit KO him. And here I accidentally fought the Blastoise team twice, but still we managed to win the next attempt. So let's take our last shot against the Charizard team, where of course as long as Submission hits, it will one-shot the Tauros. Exeggutor, we're going to go for the Ice Beam yet again. Now it does one-shot. We use Earthquake on the Arcanine. We can actually go Ice Beam on Charizard because Fire does not resist Ice in Gen 1. And then Ice Beam on the Gyarados is not enough to get the one-hitter, but then Psychic finishes it off. So we actually beat 4 Professor Oaks in a row without healing and just completely dominated them. Of course, perfect stats are way too OP on this Pokemon, which means Poliwrath is a champion. Anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. It's been a hot minute since I've been able to make videos. Personal life has been kind of crazy recently, but we're back on the grind, and I just appreciate you guys for sticking with me in 2025. Let's keep running it up. Anyway, that does it. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Later.